have a shot on goal to begin. I do want to mention the wildness of yesterday before we move on to today, because when we left yesterday, Senegal looked like they had it all but wrapped up. They lost. And then you just saw the graphic there with Team USA. And we're going to talk a lot about this, I'm sure, throughout the show, with the controversy yesterday and the red card and playing short and what it means moving forward. In case you missed the news today, I'm sure you saw it, Joe, that the player that got the red card for Team USA is out for the next match. So despite any appeal that Team USA had, one of the better players on their team, right now, the odds are creeping toward Bosnia, Joe. I don't know if you saw this. It looks like I'm sorry, not Belgium. Belgium, I think, is going to end up being a favorite against Team USA coming up next week. And yeah, you're absolutely right, man. Like, the first halves, respectfully, have been fun for betting, Joe, but they've meant nothing on the outcome. They've meant absolutely nothing, which you really can't say that in sports. You think about all sports, a team in football, let's use that, college football, pro football, they go up 21-3. What would you say, Joe? 9 out of 10 times that team wins, right? But in the World Cup, it's like, a 1-0. I thought it meant a lot. It hasn't really meant a lot in this knockout stage of the World Cup. Teams are just coming back. Germany, Ecuador, just some fantastic finishes that we've seen. And yeah, so a lot to talk about today on the show. More than usual. Sometimes it's just the match, Joe, but I feel like we have a lot more today.
Yeah, well, it's getting good now, right? It's those teams that we had some early upsets, so to speak, or at least we're on the verge of some early upsets in the knockout round. Yesterday was just crazy because 2 of the 3 games, and to this particular point, we had not had a ton of conversation about the refs and the zebras here and them influencing games, which is okay. That's exactly the way it should be. But boy, oh boy, we had 2 games yesterday, 2 matches, obviously, that had a lot to do with this VAR as well as the on-the-field refs that really changed the outcomes of the game, or could have anyway, at least in one aspect. But they play on here, and we've got 3 games, including this Austria-Spain, 0-0 here about 4 minutes in. But again, Spain was a $3 favorite, $2.50, $3 favorite in this one. Total around 2.5 here, and Spain on the attack should not shock any of us here. Austria is going to have to do a heck of a defensive job here today, and Spain doesn't get enough credit for how good defensively they are. So it'll be interesting to see just how many goals that we do get in this one. Croatia and Portugal coming up at 7. Algeria and Switzerland. And, we mentioned Senegal being that trendy dog yesterday that it seemed like the whole world wanted to bet, Craig. Well, that's Switzerland here today. It looks like Switzerland here getting a whole lot of money. And it's going to be interesting to see how many more favorites keep rolling on, because it doesn't feel, outside of France, all of the favorites have had to really work for it in the round of 32. And Spain's going to kick it off today, and we're going to see whether or not how hard they have to work for a win here to move on.
Yeah, and I think they will have to work hard today. I like the under today. I think that Spain does end up winning, but I looked at the 2.5 and thought that looked under. And, very similar to, what I saw yesterday. I think Austria, certainly I would not, again, going back to the bet yesterday with under 1.5, there was a goal scored immediately. And you can't bet -1.5, -200. I would never recommend that on the air. But alternate line of 1 under with Austria, I just don't see them scoring more than 1 goal. So I think it's a push or a win for Austria at that. And that you could get much better odds on. But I think some of these alt lines you absolutely have to take a look at, because you really can't bet anything with Spain today. Like -2.5 goals is basically the only bettable option. I'm not going to do that to get even money. So we'll have a competitive game. I think things will get interesting for Spain if the game is close once again in the second half. But Austria is not one of the poorest offenses in the world, but they've scored not enough, I think, to put themselves over the top here with Spain. So I really just don't see that happening. Spain's the more talented team. To your point, Joe, the longer that things go, the longer things get dicey, then you move into the second half. And certainly as we've seen in the second half, anything goes. Absolutely, we saw anything goes with Spain. I thought yesterday it was the perfect call with Bosnia. Bosnia hung in there the entire match, right up until that free kick at the end. Bosnia, you could make the case, played just as well as Team USA yesterday. So it doesn't matter what the odds are, Joe. It feels like this is going down to the last 5 minutes of the match.
It really does. And, you know, Spain is dealing with some injuries as well to some of their key players here. So heading into this game, Nico Williams had a right abductor injury in the stoppage time game against Uruguay that we covered there. That was a little bit more difficult than they thought it was going to be. Jeremy Pino also, I believe, thought it was a fractured collarbone, but he's got a shoulder injury. So they've got a lot of mixing and matching. They better have some guys and some depth here, but they're dealing with a whole lot of injuries on this team. And Austria, listen, you know, a lot of these teams we've seen with the underdogs, the wonderful thing about watching them here, Craig, is that it appears that all of the underdogs that we've covered here, boy, do they play with, they look like they know they have house money. They play loose. They play free. The only time it starts to go hard left in the second half is when all of a sudden the pressure starts to mount. But early on, these underdogs they've just kind of gone out, had some fun, played soccer, and all the pressure on the favorites. And you can tell in the faces, whether it's Spain or it was England the other day, boy, being a favorite is not an easy place to be right now in the knockout stage.
No, definitely not. And I think the same could be said, for Spain today. I think Austria is going to give them a battle. My worry with Austria is not, necessarily the whole match. It's just going down quick. And then what could potentially happen with them in the 3 matches thus far going in. They've given up 7 goals. So, that could hurt them if Spain gets hot here. But I do expect this to be tight, just like every other match. Joe, you mentioned it yesterday at the end of the show. Are we ever going to get a match at the World Cup that's going to be in the knockout stage or the semis 4-3, 5-2? And I don't think so. It just doesn't feel like it based on what we've seen, and we're almost done with the quarterfinals. I believe we just have one more day.
Yeah, Senegal almost put a wrench into that one. But hey, we got much more in the World Cup coming your way as in-game live game day continues on the grid. right, welcome back in-game live game day here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as the knockout stages continue here at the World Cup, the round of 32. We got 3 matches squared up here today. One underway. We're about 12 minutes in as Austria and Spain are 0-0 at this point, and much like what we have seen all week long in the knockout stage here, Craig, not a whole lot going on offensively from either side. A lot of back and forth played, pretty much just around midfield. Nothing really crazy here early on. But again, Spain dealing with a lot of injuries. And if we're being honest, beating Saudi Arabia, great. But every other match they had in the group stage was, what that 1-0 there coming in that final day that they needed. And then, of course, the 0-0 match to open up group play against Cape Verde it has not been easy for Spain to this point, but that's not stopping the markets from betting them as a favorite, not just in this match, but of course, overall, still one of the favorites to win the World Cup this year. But boy, we got to see something more from Spain here, don't we?
Yeah, Spain, Germany, France, those were like more or less the betting favorites going into this. Argentina maybe on the outside, Portugal a little bit more on the outside of that. But Spain is a little bit, Joe, as you said, of an enigma. You would think that they'd be much better into this. They have not been. And I think in this match in particular for Austria, they're just looking for a mistake. That's going to be what it is. They know that they don't have the talent that Spain does. Spain, again, has one of the best teams in the world, but one mistake can lead to a quick goal. And if anybody could play defense, unlike Senegal in the last 5 minutes of their game, then maybe they can hang on to a potential win. So that's what we're seeing here. And very few shots on goal at all. As you said, 14 minutes in. And this is the kind of match that was honestly predicted when I was doing a lot of the previews. A lot of folks thought that this could be a little bit of a slog, back and forth, not much scoring. We had a fantastic match, as we saw yesterday. I don't know that we're going to get a better one, honestly, even though there wasn't a lot of scoring. It was so much fun to watch. And by the way, Team USA's match, despite only being 2-0, was a blast to watch too, just because we had some controversy and some pushing and shoving and all that. And it's not the worst thing in the world when you're doing things like us, like you're broadcasting shows. So, the World Cup's getting their money's worth. And then naturally, once Saturday begins and we move out of this round, things are going to get real serious. So I certainly am a lot more excited to see how Team USA performs than I was maybe 24 hours ago, because now, Joe, regardless of these other matches, and again, most people who are watching us probably in the United States, now that U.S. is playing with the chip on their shoulder. Now they're playing without one of their top players because he will not be eligible to play in the next one. Scoring a goal, being short, one man. Yeah, I mean, it was just a great theater for the World Cup, I thought. And look, hopefully we get some great matches today. I know you and I will be on the broadcast for Messi's match tomorrow, too. So I'm very excited about that, being able to do in Argentina. A little bit of a play-by-play, so looking forward to that as well. And today, Joe, I'm just hoping for some scoring, but I'm not going to count on it. There isn't anybody really predicting it, so we'll just kind of stay tuned.
Yeah, well, that's, so far, you're right. It's been all Spain as far as controlling goes. 3 shots right now. That's Spain. They do have 1 on target. They do have 3 corners. No corners yet for Austria, but this is very much like you said, with what we expected was going to happen. 60-40 possession here, and it feels like Austria is more than happy to just control the ball here, not necessarily try to get out and generate so much quick offense here, which is going to be difficult because, again, Spain, yes, they can score, but they are also very well known for how tough they are defensively. And yep, to your point, we ain't got no score here just yet, but it would be nice to see Austria spend some time actually on the offensive end here and maybe attack a little bit, because they're just happy with sending the ball back. They keep sending it back their way. I don't know what that is, Greg, but that's maybe we can get a shot on goal at one point would be fantastic here. But 0-0, again, minus 250 right now. Currently, Spain as the favorite on the 17-minute mark. And that total going down a little bit, too. It was 2.5. It was as high as 3 in some spots, Craig. And again, that I think a lot of people thought Spain could cover that by themselves, but so far, so good. And you and I have talked about it all week. Hydration break. By the time you get to the hydration break, if we don't have any scoring, the market adjusts over the same thing yesterday. We talked about it in the game that we covered yesterday. Both games we covered, where all of a sudden at the hydration break, you're looking at much better prices for the favorites than what you could have gotten, pre-flop before the match started. Right. The in-game opportunities here have been plentiful. We saw it with the United States last night when there was no score. Then once they had to play with 10 men, the number was astronomical that you could have got. So I think almost playing these games live and looking for the right moment, don't pay exorbitant prices. I don't think you have to on the favorites. At least we haven't seen that thus far in the knockout stage.
Yeah, and USA, Bosnia did not go over in the second half. There was only one goal in the second half, as everybody knows by now. But if you've watched any of these matches, Joe, you make a great point. I mean, you don't even need to know what the game theory is. You just bet the over in the second half, and maybe take an alt line a little bit to get better odds, because for whatever reason, these matches are just opening up big time the second half begins. So I don't know if it's adjustments. I don't know if you mentioned, taking a break, hydration breaks, etc. But you can't fall into the trap in watching, for example, Spain, Austria here and get 45 minutes in and think, oh, this is the way the match is going to play out, because that has not been the story of the World Cup.
No, it has not. So if we can get to about the 24, 25-minute mark, 0-0, we'll likely have an opportunity here to get Spain at a better price than what we did originally. And again, Austria doesn't seem to be biting on any of these moves so far that Spain is these sets that they're running. Well, they got a lot of soccer to go here, but we'll keep you posted as in-game live game day continues on the grid. All right, welcome back in on this Thursday. Can't believe it. Here we are, July 2nd. It's in-game live game day on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. He is Craig Mish, and the knockout stage is off and running here today. 3 games on tap, but our first one up is Austria and Spain, one of the big favorites heading into this World Cup, and they were a big favorite today. In fact, I saw as high as almost $4 in some spots here today that they would end up winning this thing in regulation. But the problem is you have to actually score in order to win. And Spain, outside of that second game against Saudi Arabia, which, let's be honest, everyone feels like they beat Saudi Arabia, there's not exactly been an offensive juggernaut. They are dealing with a bunch of injuries, and we get that, but still one of the deeper, more experienced clubs. And they got 0-0 right now as Austria seems to have a pretty good game plan defensively. And I have yet to see Spain, Craig, kind of, we saw a lot of this in the USA game last night where, there were times where Bosnia was completely baffled and didn't look like they had a clue or weren't expecting some of the sets that Team USA were using there on offense. But I haven't seen that yet as we get to the hydration break. I haven't seen that from Austria where they kind of look dumbfounded. They got a pretty good game plan in place so far.
Feels like Austria is just willing to keep the ball on their side of the pitch and wait for a mistake.
Smart.
And maybe get aggressive in the second half because they just really haven't been on the attack at all in the first 23 minutes and 12 seconds of this. As Joe said, we're in the hydration break. So maybe that is their game plan. When you know that you're outmanned and you're out-talented, wait for the other team to attack you. We think we could play great defense. They make a mistake, then we attack at that point. Problem, as you said, Joe, is that Spain has not really even been on the attack themselves, and this is a common theme, as we've seen in the World Cup thus far from Spain. So, the lines are going to start to shoot down, as you mentioned, Joe. The totals will start to shoot down here a little bit, usually 30, 40 minutes in. That's it. You're not going to get the same lines you were before, and then you kind of have to decide for yourself, am I going to start pivoting or am I going to double down on some of the bets that I made earlier in? But not a lot of shots on goal, so those are under. No goals at all, that's an under. Team totals for Spain, team totals, of course, for Austria, those are under as well. So we'll just continue to monitor as we go, and if it feels any different as it rolls along, then maybe it's time to go another direction.
Yeah, we are seeing right now, again, 2.5 is what we're seeing. We saw this as high as 3, even 3.5 in some spots, but a lot of that was based upon Spain doing some of the heavy lifting here. And, well, they haven't lifted a whole heck of a lot. We mentioned earlier, right, Craig? I mean, at the first 10 minutes, we had a 3 shots for Spain, no shots for Austria. Well, guess what? 3 shots for Spain. Here we are at the 24, 25-minute mark. No shots for Austria here. Only 3 corners thus far. And time of possession, 57-43 is what I'm showing in favor of Spain. And a lot of that has to go with exactly what you were talking about. Austria is doing a great job of playing keep away. But I caution, folks, every game that we have seen a favorite either down at this point during a hydration break or not looking itself, we have seen a turnaround after this. So whatever it is with these hydration breaks, which, by the way, we've never had before, Craig, but whatever it is, it seems to be the jolt that some of these teams that are supposed to win, they take advantage of. We'll see if Spain can do that. But right now, as little as minus 220s now, I think if this goes a few more minutes, Spain as under a $2 favorite, very much likely going to happen in this spot.
Yeah, so if you feel that Spain will win and win in regulation, then you'll get better odds, certainly coming here at the end of the first half or even in the second half. But the question that you have to ask yourself before placing that bet is it possible that the things that we've seen from Spain in the first 3 matches that they played in the World Cup is the real deal, meaning that they're just not as good as we thought they were. And that's what we have seen thus far with them. Now, I haven't seen anything, Joe, that would change my mind. Have you? I haven't seen them attacking or look any different than they did in that opening match where they almost lost that one. So it looks that match and this match look identical to me. And I know Austria is better, but Spain, certainly has to get their act together at some point here. They're going to go home.
Yeah, not seeing again. There's not now. Again, no shots on goal, no corners is what we've got from Austria. So it's going to be very hard to win a game if you don't actually score. We got in-game live game day continuing here on the grid.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latin Nation Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy, crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
Welcome back in-game live game day here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. And like we said, things always get interesting after the hydration break. And they just did. Only Spain just had a goal removed off a corner kick. They got a great rebound, but it looks like they called a penalty as it looks like 2 or 3 of the Spain players demolished the goaltender for Austria. So they wiped it off the board. 31-minute mark here, Craig, and we're back to 0-0. And sure enough, we're getting ever so close to that minus 200 price for Spain right now. But that was a good corner. All of it was good except for the point where you actually tackled the Austrian goalie. That's frowned upon, apparently. Did you know that?
Yeah, if killing the goalie is part of the game, then Spain won that one. They won that battle. Yeah, I mean, they just basically took the goalie out. It took him out and tackled him, basically. And then Spain's all upset that the goal doesn't count. I mean, they're not going to be upset at halftime when they go back and watch the replay and see that. And honestly, Joe, I think the question that Spain's going to have to ask, and the coach sort of in assessing this will ask, is that did they need to do that to the goalie? I think they may have scored anyway. If they hadn't done that, I think they would have. And so that's, certainly a mistake, but that's going to happen in the heat of the moment. But as we stand 31 minutes in, no score, odds crashing across the board coming here. So if you like Spain, you're going to get better odds if you can hang out for the next 5-10 minutes. And if you're going under, you're going to have to try and figure out some sort of alt bet because this thing is going to crash.
Yeah, it's going to keep crashing too, which is okay. I still think Spain wins. Don't get me wrong. But it's, again, didn't want to have to pay -$3, -325 pre-flop when you can get these certainly these big favorites at a much better price here. But again, I have to see some sort of offense from Austria in order to give them a chance to actually do anything here, because we don't have a shot, we don't have a corner, we don't pretty much have anything right now except them hoping. Oh boy, that was almost a goal too. Hoping that Spain doesn't score here. So much like we got the feeling, and it's funny, you watch these games now, right, Craig, from the start, you tend to sense when all of a sudden, teams, especially favorites, start figuring it out, and you're going, we saw it with England, as a matter of fact, in their game, where we said, yeah, it's not a matter of if they score. Now it's just a matter of when they score. And I feel the same thing happening right now with Spain. Doesn't feel like it's a matter of if, it's just a matter of when and how many at this point.
Well, I think the one takeaway that I've had thus far is that, is it fair to say that if this is Austria's game plan, it's working to a T? Like, is that
Yes.
a fair thing to say? Like, if they went into this trying to do what they're doing, it is working. Because they're not taking any shots. They're just playing good defense. They've been a little bit lucky. Yes, that's true. But maybe this is their game plan, Joe, going in. And if they are, they're executing it great. Because we're asking for offense. They don't seem to be particularly interested right now in that. So maybe that's just the way that they plan on playing.
No. Yeah, no. As a matter of fact, I would likely get as many of these Spain bets in as soon as you can here if you're going to do it, because it's they just got called for an offsides, but it was they are certainly putting the pressure on. And again, 4 shots now, I think, for Spain, none. And it's so funny. You go down the stat sheet here for Austria. It's like 0, 0, 0, 0. They do have a save. That's nice. Actually, 3 saves right now. Possession, 62-37. But other than that, a whole lot of zeros on the board right now for Austria. 5 shots now for Spain. 5 corner kicks for Spain. So those of you that invested in the corners market in this spot, you're going to hope you're going to need, if you did the over, you're going to need Spain to keep getting the corner kicks, because it doesn't appear that Austria is going to get too many of those at this particular point. But 35 minutes in, still 0-0, total of 2, Craig, in some spots now. You find that interesting?
Yeah, I mean, still pretty good. I mean, look, second half, anything can happen, and I'm not going to pump up that because I've seen 2 goals scored pretty consistently in the second half of every match. But really like the under 2.5, and I think I'm not going to double down on that because I feel good about where that position was at. The other thing that I'm watching here is if you looked at Austria, their last offensive attempt, like the guy kicked the ball like 50 feet from the net. Like, it seems like that's their best shot of the day. Like, they just don't feel they can get any closer. So you mentioned in terms of the total control in the match, this is the most one-sided that you and I have done, by the way, without a goal for sure with Spain. So we'll see if that continues. But like you said, I do expect Spain to get on the board eventually. I just don't know how many times that's going to be. Is it going to be 1? Is it going to be 2? But Austria is just not particularly interested.
Yeah, no, they're not offering up any sort of some decent resistance, but they're just not offering up enough offense here. And again, they seem very almost like they're on a penalty kill in hockey, right? They're more than happy just to clear the puck, just kick the ball out. They got as many guys as possible back. I just don't know how they're going to expect to get any, and there it is. There's the goal. It was just a matter. It wasn't a matter if. It was a matter of when, and boy, oh boy. I mean, they have been under duress this entire time here. I can't even blame the goalie in this one here, Greg, because Spain, quite honestly, has been on the assault ever since the hydration break, really.
Yeah, and the goaltender, nothing he could do on that one. Nothing. Spain just went right down the field. 2 passes, no defense. and kicked it right in. So, yeah. So, I don't know how Austria comes back at this point, but, look, things sometimes go sideways in the second half. I think if you're Austria right now, here's what you're thinking. We got 10 minutes. Let's hang on for dear life. Let's get to the break.
Yes.
See if in the second half we can tie this thing up at 1. We cannot allow another goal in the first half of this. That would be my take for Austria.
Kind of a terrible look there. I mean, I don't know what number 8 on Austria was doing, but he kind of fell down and completely missed the ball. It was his guy that scored. The goaltender didn't even dive or make an attempt at the shot. I mean, it wasn't terribly
very weird.
It wasn't kicked terribly hard. The whole sequence was very strange, but it could be 2-0 already if there wasn't an unnecessary goal that was taken down, or unnecessary foul, in fact, that took down another goal by Spain. But 1-0, and just like that, Greg, they were down, and we told you, get those Spain bets in sooner rather than later. They were down about minus 220. They're now back up to minus 950 after 1 goal. So that tells you everything you need to know about the soccer betting markets and how 1 goal could very well change everything. So, and that's what we've got. Total back up to close to 3, though. So 2.5, 2.75, depending on the market. I can see Spain with another goal and just kind of sitting back and taking the air out of it maybe in the second half.
That was the most popular final score. Yeah, that 2-0 was the most popular final prediction that I saw. I wasn't sure of that, but because Spain just hadn't been playing that well. And by the way, Spain may not score again. I mean, that's possible too.
Yes.
But if you're watching this match, you have to understand that Austria is going to have to get hot eventually. They're going to have to try. We'll be right back.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something in this. Otherwise, we are really in trouble here for those of you that backed Austria, or maybe even took a goal and a half here. But Spain looking the part. This is the best we've seen them look here, so we'll see if they can add to this lead. What got you covered, though, is in-game live. Game day continues on the grid.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day 1. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
This is the 3rd time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done. He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. And look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day, de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
welcome back in Game Live at Game Day here, the knockout stage off and running here today. We got our first game up, Austria and Spain now with a 1-0 lead here coming up on the 43-minute mark. And boy, if I'm Austria, you are lucky that it is only 1-0 at this particular point. It has been pure domination, to say the least. 8 shots to 1. I can't believe Austria just finally got a shot on goal, but they have it wasn't on target, by the way. It was in the general area of the Spain's goalie. So they do have a goalie there, Craig. We hadn't seen him at all throughout this entire match up to this point because, well, Spain has spent the entire match, all 42 minutes on the Austria side. So, but they do have at least one registered shot at this point. Still no corners. All the corners have come from Spain. In fact, 6 of them here. And I think Spain shot it on their own goal, so maybe they're going to get credit there, Craig. But it is quite the domination right now by Spain over Austria. But to your point, 1 goal, it could be a fluke. It could be anything. All of a sudden, we got ourselves a different match.
Yeah, and Austria just had their best opportunity, I think, to score. They had a 3-on-2 going down, and looked like one of their guys fell, and so that eliminated that. Look, several minutes left, and second halves of these matches have been very high scoring, and we'll have Kyle Bond on from Sporting News in about 15 minutes to tell us what he thinks of the second half potentially, and also, of course, we'll preview some of the matches tonight and tomorrow. But you have to be impressed with the way that Spain has played, especially on offense. They've been on the attack constantly, and for Austria, I don't know what you do. I guess you go back in the locker room or wherever they go and try to devise a game plan to score, to just tie the game and hope for the best in the second half, because they can't do it by just sitting back. But Joe, that's their game plan here today, obviously. I mean, they've been kicking the ball backwards for the majority of the match. So maybe afraid that Spain's speed on the outside is going to burn them and they're going to come back and score. But I haven't seen anything today that tells me, Joe, that Austria's team total is going anywhere over 1. I mean, I'd be shocked if Austria posted more than 1 goal today.
They might have an opportunity here, the best opportunity they just had. But I'm with you. It feels like when they do get onto Spain's side of the field, that they really have absolutely no idea what to do with it. They get ahead of themselves and they either fall down or they lose the ball. So you can tell the pressure might be on for the offense here to get going a little bit for Austria. But, Spain, we've seen them play down to their competition at times as well. But the overwhelming stat that pops out to me when you look at Spain's trip so far in this World Cup is nobody has scored on them yet. And a lot of that is because they spend most of the time on offense, but the times that they have spent on defense, nobody's been able to find the back of the net for them. So we'll see if Austria, they get a goal, they'll do something nobody else has done in the World Cup yet so far there, Craig, and that's actually score on Spain.
Yeah, Spain is, there's a reason why they're one of the favorites to win it all. But, I also, in watching Spain, Joe, don't think that they're the kind of team that's going to win this entire thing, too. I mean, that's the one thing that you can, kind of take away from watching some of these is they've played well, but they, with all of these opportunities, they're one mistake away from this game being tied. So I know that they were among the 3rd shortest odds, I think, to win it all, or 2nd shortest odds to win it all, but I probably would not be on them. I probably would find another option there. Oh, you see the shortest odds right now, plus 460. So Spain, France, and England. I think that France and England were ahead of them. Now Spain's ahead of them, which makes some sense, especially with the 1-0 score here. But yeah, I think I would not rule out Argentina. You wonder if Germany now is a little more motivated after the way that they played. They went down, and now, Uruguay certainly doing what they had to do against them. So I think anybody really can win this thing. But for me, when I look at the top, Spain is not one of those teams that I'm focused on.
Yeah, well, look, It'd be nice to see if they go another clean sheet here, and that hit the crossbar. My goodness, almost another 2-0 type of situation. Oh, wow! Wait till you see this, Craig. We had a really nice save by the goaltender there for Austria, but that came off a ricochet because they did right off the top crossbar, came back out, and I think more than anything else, he just kind of got in the way of the shot. It was a heck of a shot, but he ended up blocking it, and that's it right now. Took it right in the stomach too. That can't feel good. But that's a save. That could potentially be saving their World Cup here and giving them an opportunity here to get back in it. We did have 4 minutes of extra time, by the way. Not a lot of stoppage here so far in the first half between these two teams, if nothing else. So 4 minutes and still 1-0. And we'll see if Austria can keep it that way, really, because that would be my goal at this point. Regroup, make it a 1-goal game, and then come back out in the second half and see what you can get going.
They're going to have to, and I don't know how they do it, Joe, with so few opportunities that they've had. Spain is just constantly on the attack. But look, I mean, they're here for a reason. Maybe they'll figure it out, but not a single shot on goal for Austria today. Not one. I mean, we're 48 minutes into this. 0 shots on goal. They've got a couple shots, but not directly on the goal. I mean, that's just pathetic.
Yeah, not good, to say the least here at this point. But there's always a second half. That's why you can win the stat sheet all you want, but it's the score at the end of it that matters the most. But right now, Spain looking to, in the final minute or so here in the first half, trying to make it very difficult here for Austria to come back. But I think your 2-0 is very much alive and well. And you said that was the top exact score that
top
you heard
predictive
here.
Score
was that
of the day.
2-0?
Yeah, 2-0. Yep.
Yeah. We'll have to check those scores, but I think we're close to having just that here. But we'll do it when we get back as in-game live game day continues on the grid.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day, de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy, crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
right, welcome back in-game live game day here on the Sports Grid Network, and we are at the break here as the World Cup knockout stage continues. And we got a 1-0 Spain lead over Austria at this point. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. And Craig, that's about as ineffective an offense as we've seen, although they did end up, Austria, with 2 shots, none of them on target. In the meantime, Spain, 11 shots, 6 on target, 6 corners. Then they've been pretty good, and a 64-36 percentage of possession in that first half. That is about as dominant as I think you can be in a half, and they had a goal taken down, by the way. So 1-0, if I'm Austria, I am feeling fortunate it is only 1-0 at this point.
100%. This thing could have been 2-0. It could have been 3-0. 4 maybe a stretch, but they definitely could have had 2 or 3 goals here. But maybe, again, Joe, this is the game plan for Austria, and they're right exactly where they want to be. They were huge underdogs, so maybe, they go in the locker room and say, hey, guys, we're only down 1. All we got to do is tie this and then push this to kicks at the end. That's got to be the goal. I don't think Austria is going to change their plan much, Joe, in the second half. I think you're going to see more of the same, and then they'll be forced into a situation to get aggressive, and that's when maybe the second goal of the match comes, whether it's from Spain or whether it's from Austria, still to be determined. But we are officially at halftime, so we got about another 10 minutes before we kick off the second half, and that's when things usually have been fun, when we start to see a lot of goals scored. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen here. A lot of goals are projected for the matches today, later today and tonight. But this one in particular was supposed to be low scoring, and I think mostly as a result of the way Austria plays, and that definitely has been the case today.
2 huge saves, by the way, at the end there for the goaltender of Austria. Again, this is this close to being 3-0, 2-0, 3-0 here at this point. But second chance coming up their way there. Austria will have an opportunity. And that's not the only game coming up here a little bit later. We still have game number 2, 7 o'clock Eastern time. That one is going to be in Toronto. Croatia and Portugal will take center stage. And that, too, should be a very interesting one. A lot of people thought Croatia and the World Cup, they have, they've got quite a rich history here of pulling off upsets. They're going to be an underdog in this one here as well, and a big underdog as that, especially against the Portugal squad that I'm still not sold on Portugal here.
Ronaldo hasn't played great. I mean, that's fair to say, but I don't know, Joe. Like, I still think that there's time. I think there's time for Portugal to get right. Ronaldo was one of the best players in the world. I don't know that if he still is. After watching this part of the World Cup, I would think that he's not. You would say no, but he's also older, and maybe this is the end of the line. But what I would tell you is that there's no question that the next show that you and I do, when we, you actually have an earlier show than I do tomorrow, but when you and I come back and do Argentina, I think we're going to get a Messi goal. That would be my prediction. So,
yes.
This guy is scoring every single match. He could be 60 years old and still score. It's incredible.
Yes. But there are people who believe goals are coming in there. I don't think Portugal is going to have a clean sheet. I don't think they're going to be able to keep Croatia from scoring. So you know me and my both teams to score prop here. 2.5, 2.75, somewhere in that ballpark there. Are we getting 3 goals? I think likely. I kind of like and lean the over in that match coming up here, because both teams have proven, yes, firepower they have. Defense, maybe not as good as the offenses that we're going to see coming up in that one. And then Algeria, Switzerland. And it's amazing to me the amount of love that Switzerland is getting. I don't know that I'm sleeping on Algeria, but styles make fights. Algeria is going to be all about the defense, and Switzerland's going to be all about the offense. So something's got to happen here late night tonight as well.
Yeah, I like the team total on Switzerland over today. That's one of the plays that I was looking at earlier. And, certainly this is a close one in terms of matches. I could see either team winning. Sometimes I stay away when those things happen. Don't have to place a bet on everything, Joe, as you know. Sometimes you can take a pass, but do like the over on their goals. It may end up being a 2-2 draw. That's the dynamic of this too.
Yes, exactly. Switzerland is not necessarily known for its great defensive prowess. But we got another hour to go. We got another half to go. Austria and Spain, the second half, is coming your way as in-game live game day continues on the grid.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day, de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy, crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
All right, welcome back in-game live game day here on the SportsGrid Network as we have played a half in the knockout stage between Spain and Austria. 1-0 is your score right now as Spain obviously clearly the favorite heading into this. Well, they should be since they're one of the favorites to win everything, but a lot of soccer still to be played coming up here. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. And Craig, I know we're still thinking maybe fewer goals in the second half, but I'm having a hard time seeing how Austria is going to score it all here.
Yeah, and let's bring in Kyle Bond from Sporting News, too, to discuss it as we take a look here at the upcoming second half. Kyle, certainly you're, first of all, thank you for coming on. I know you're really busy today, and we really appreciate that. I don't want to get lost in that. But Joe and I, in our analysis, are watching a different lens from yours, of course. And our lens is on this match, and then we'll get to some others in particular, is can Austria just do this the entire match and expect to win? I understand that this is the way that they're playing. They're kicking the ball backwards. They're not really on the attack. How can they win a match playing like this? Does something have to change, or they just are simply outmanned and there's nothing they can do? This is the frustrating part watching.
Yeah, no, they're probably not going to win, and they're probably not going to score is what I would say. But if they're trying to, then the goal is probably here to get it to halftime, get it to the 60th minute with the game intact, with the game in reach, either scoreless or now at 1-0. You want to kill some time, shorten the game, and then open up the attack and go for it across the last 30 minutes. I think Spain will be frustrated that they haven't scored more in order to sort of put themselves out of reach and ruin Austria's goal of getting it to the 60th minute with the game intact. If they get a multi-goal lead, then, you know, Austria sort of have to come out of their shell right then and there and try and get multiple goals. But if it's really that 1-goal margin, Austria sort of are still in the zone of where they want it to be. Because then they can open it up the last 20, 30 minutes and try to get a goal, send it to extra time, and see what happens from there. So both teams are mildly happy with where this is, but I mean, Spain just dominated that half. I don't see it changing too much. They may sit on the ball a little bit more in the second half, but I think they'll get another one at least, if not more.
Yeah, this it should be interesting. Sooner rather than later would be great for Austria if they can get it going. Kyle, but I'm sort of interested in the next couple of games coming up. Croatia and Portugal also seems to be very interesting. You know, Croatia as an underdog is always intriguing to me. How about for you?
Yeah, I'm laughing a little bit because it's funny that these two games are back-to-back because these are probably the slowest two games of the round of 32. I hope you're ready for some really slow football. Obviously, you've seen it here in the Spain-Austria game. Spain are a very methodical team. They want to I heard it described the other day, whereas Mauricio Pochettino's USA tactics are more of a battering ram. This is more of a lockpick. They're just slowly trying to unlock the defense. For Croatia and Portugal, Croatia are one of the oldest teams in the field, and they can't really run anymore. Whereas Portugal have three very, very good midfielders, probably the best midfield in the world. And then they have 40-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo at the attack, who every time they get forward on the field are waiting for their striker to catch up. So I hope you're ready for some really slow football because that's what it's going to be. I'm hammering the under in this game because it's going to be plodding.
So Kyle, let's go to the hot story of the day in soccer, which ironically involves Team USA. They end up winning last night 2-0. They're playing a man short. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the first red card that I saw in the World Cup thus far. Maybe there was one that I missed, but I hadn't seen anything like that, let alone a goal scored by Team USA having 10 men. So for you, what was your takeaway from that? Do you think it was the right call? And is this loss for Team USA that they're going to have against Belgium a big one? The odds are telling us Belgium, by the time this kicks off, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, with all the people who bet here in the U.S., that the U.S. is going to be an underdog, I think, against Belgium when it's all said and done next week.
Yeah, and that's about right. Belgium are ranked 10th in the world. They have not looked good this tournament, and I think the odds are relatively close because of that. But Belgium are the quote-unquote better team. This was not the correct call, and it was very frustrating to see Fuller and Balogun out not only for the last 20, 30 minutes of the game, but suspended for the next one as well, because this was a 50-50 challenge that when you look at on the slow-mo replay or on the still image, looks very bad, right? His foot is right on top of the guy's ankle, and the guy's ankle is turning. But when you watch this in real time, and you ask any former player, this is what Mauricio Pochettino called a normal football action, where it's two guys stepping for the ball at the same time, and one guy's foot happens to land on top of the other guy's foot. There is no way that Fuller and Balogun, as he makes his move, I mean, we're talking in bullet time here, right? Like this all happens in a split second. When he puts his foot down to try and challenge for the ball, which he is looking at the entire time, never looks at his opponent, looking at the ball the whole time. The opponent sort of shimmies in front of him and then steps at the same time, and his foot happens to come down on the other guy's foot. There's no intent, no malice. One of the standards of a red card is excessive force or brutality. He's just putting his foot out, so that's out. The criteria that they're hiding behind is what we call endangering the safety of an opponent. And when you look at the still image, you go, oh yeah, clearly he's endangering the safety of the opponent. When you watch the replay, not the case at all. So this is really a misunderstanding of the game by the video replay review system and by the referee. The referee didn't even give a yellow card in the moment, which I think is silly. He let everything go the whole game, which was wild. But it was definitely a yellow card challenge for what we say reckless, right? A reckless challenge is a yellow card challenge. But this is not a red card situation, and it was really unfortunate that happened. Now, it is not that big of a loss for the U.S. Folarin Balogun is an excellent player. He's exceptional striker. He's far and away the best striker in this player pool. His strength is getting a high volume of chances because his off-ball movement is incredible. He is really good at finding spaces in the defense, at creating movement and getting on the ball and getting a high volume of chances. Not a great finisher, but with his volume of chances, he ends up putting one or two in the back of the net. Ricardo Pepi will probably start for him. There's a couple other options that Mauricio Pochettino has, but that's the most likely one. He is a different player. He's not a high volume guy, but he's a really good finisher. You'll see him get less shots. You won't see him as involved as Balogun. They'll probably feature Christian Pulisic much more, but Pepe's a great finisher and he presses very, very well. So he fits into this U.S. system. I think he'll be fine.
Well, I certainly hope so, because if it comes down to it and they can't get it, then we'll be talking about the ref all day long. What did you think about the call, by the way, in the Belgian game? What did you think of the ref and that call there?
Yeah, which one are you referring to exactly?
Senegal?
Oh, the Senegal game where they end up he calls and gives them an opportunity to win the game with little time left is kind of head scratching that you didn't insert yourself at that particular point, right?
Yeah, it was definitely a penalty. It's very unfortunate. Senegal played a really good match, but they fell apart at the end. And Belgium's a good team, don't get me wrong, but they are a very similar team to the one that beat the U.S. in extra time in 2014. Both of their goal scorers are still on this team. It's an older, aging team, and they have not looked good in this tournament. They are not good moving the ball in the attacking third. They do not create a lot of chances. Their best chance creator is Leandro Trossard, who, if you watch Arsenal, many Arsenal fans will tell you that if Leandro Trossard is your best chance creator, you're kind of in trouble. Romelu Lukaku's not a good finisher at this point in his career. So this is definitely a game that the U.S. can win, and in my opinion, should win at this point. If they don't, it will be slightly disappointing.
Yeah, less about the refs would be great from this point on. Kyle Bond, appreciate the time. SportingNews.com, always a pleasure, man. Much more soccer still to come here. So we've got you covered. In-game live. Game day continues on the grid.
Older players in the WNBA going, hey man, we were here when they were paying us nothing. We were here when we had to go overseas to make a paycheck. You're walking in here, you don't realize how easy you have it. So there is some of that too. But yeah, Jordan got beaten up. Magic got beaten up. Bird got beaten up. Kareem got beaten up. Wemby is getting beaten up, by the way.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done. He's on the
jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Pitching has been really good in their bullpen too. So Chris Getz, their general manager, credit to him. This guy was getting pounded a couple of years ago for decisions and everything like that, but man, it is seemingly working out. The fans, by the way, all of a sudden are pouring in there. Their attendance is on the rise too. So a great sign that the White Sox are in this thing. Now, long term, I don't know. Like, is this a postseason team? Is it a deep postseason team?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
right, welcome back in-game live game day here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as the knockout stages continue here in the World Cup, and we've got one match underway, one of three, in fact, that we're going to see here today, and it's Spain taking on Austria, and still 1-0, Craig, here. Spain, they've come out of the break. We're about at the 51-minute mark. It was all Spain in that first half here. Are we seeing anything thus far that leads us to believe we're going to get anything different here in the second half so far?
Yeah, not much, Joe. You know, and Kyle didn't really give us much of an indication that anything would change. It's just that Austria is not, certainly capable of taking a lot of shots. I mean, to this degree, it's been almost zero. So it feels like more of the same. And, definitely Spain has been a little bit unlucky. Potentially they could have had 2 or 3 goals. They did not. But I would imagine Spain went into the locker room like, hey, look, we're up 1-0 and this team can't score. So what are we doing here? Let's just protect. And if that's the case, then this certainly is going to go under the total, as we discussed, of 2.5, which is now back to minus money again. So we'll see as it plays out over the course of the day. But to answer your question, I guess I was a little long-winded there. No, I've seen nothing from Austria whatsoever.
Yeah, no, not. And it's going to be interesting, too, to see exactly. They have made some changes, apparently, Austria. Apparently, the coach was not exactly thrilled with maybe some of the offensive effort, given the fact that they barely got a kick on goal there in the first half. But they've kind of changed the whole midfield there at the break. So we'll see if that generates any sort of offense here. That's feels like a desperate move, but that's kind of exactly, I guess, what you got to do at this point when you were thoroughly dominated like they were in that first half. So, and it, again, all I keep seeing is every time they try to clear the ball, Spain ends up with it and is trying to set up their offense to get something going. But it is truly domination here. Listen, we only saw one. I mean, honestly, and of all the so far in the knockout rounds, and we've covered almost all of them. I mean, 13 shots to 2 shots tells you everything about where this game is, and is heading for Spain. But outside of the France game, this against Sweden, and they thoroughly dominated Sweden here, this is the only other very one-sided game that we have seen. We've seen a lot of very competitive knockout stage, matches here, but this one, I think, is falling into that France category where, next. There are classes to this, and it just feels like these two are in a different class right now.
Yeah, I just haven't seen any indication that that Austria is going to show anything. And as we're talking here, it's just constantly Spain, on their side of it here. And so it's like, I think there's a chance that you're right, as you said, that Spain scores again. But then if they score again, Joe, it's just shutdown time. They're just going to play defense the rest of the way. So, look, I think I'm not bullish on Spain after watching this match. I'm probably just less bullish on Austria than ever before. And this was just not the best matchup for them, Joe, it would appear.
No, it was not. But and I guess we're starting to see why they are such a favorite, and they just missed another goal, did Spain there. So, again, it does feel like it's not a matter of if, it just seems to be a matter of when. And again, those of you that dabbled in the corners market, you need Spain to keep taking. They got another one here, but they're the only ones taking corner shots right now. In fact, 7 total in the game, all 7 coming from Spain. So maybe an under wouldn't have been a bad look in that spot there. But the good news is, like we mentioned earlier, not the only game that we've got going on here today, because coming up, and it's interesting because we talked to Kyle Bonnet of Sporting News, and he said, if you like watching paint dry, get ready for Croatia and Portugal, because he was not apparently very high on the idea of this being a very fast-paced, fun game. He thinks this is going to be first goal wins is kind of the feeling I got from him in this upcoming Croatia-Portugal. How about you?
Yeah, it just feels like nothing is coming here. That's unfortunate. But look, I mean, Portugal is not that big a favorite as compared to some of the other teams, and that gives Croatia a chance. But we could end up getting another low-scoring 1-0 affair, just like we've gotten in this one, as we're 55 minutes in without Austria like putting up a fight at all, and Spain still winning 1-0. So maybe it's a repeat of what we're seeing here. I mean, Kyle didn't say it'd be a 0-0 match, but certainly 1-0 is definitely in play.
Yeah, it's definitely think the under might certainly be in play in that one. And again, that one is in Toronto. The late game tonight with Switzerland and Algeria. Vancouver, I believe, is where that one is going to be played. So this one currently with Spain at SoFi Stadium there in Inglewood. And looks like a lot of red jerseys. Now, I can't really tell if that's Austria fans or Spain fans, but it certainly feels like Spain might have a bit of a home field advantage here. So. Are you getting that? You're getting that sense as well, there?
Yeah, Spain has got a big advantage. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, they're going to travel very well wherever they go. So, yes. I mean, I don't feel like I don't think that that's been a factor here today. I mean, I wouldn't say that, but I just think that there's a lot of fans. You're 100% right. Wear the red jerseys today.
There's a lot of red here going on, and we'll see if they can dazzle the fans here a little bit. But Australia trying to play keep away, but again, you can only play keep away so long before you gotta be able to score or try to score. Now they finally looks like they've got a little something going here at the 57-minute mark, but that's probably all she wrote. So they'll be going the other way in just a minute. 14 shots to 2 shots is what we've got as a total at this point. 7, and maybe the most impressive thing of the 14 shots is 50% have actually been on target. And that's impressive for Spain here. And this is what we would expect from Spain, but they're just not having to play any defense here. That's the other big issue. So we'll have more, though, as in-game live game day continues on the grid.
The older players in the WNBA going, hey, man, we were here when they were paying us nothing. We were here when we had to go overseas to make a paycheck. You're walking in here, you don't realize how easy you have it. So there is some of that too. But yeah, Jordan got beaten up. Magic got beaten up. Bird got beaten up. Kareem got beaten up. You know, Wemby is getting beaten up, by the way.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
like,
on
stop
the
jumping.
Turf. He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Pitching has been really good in their bullpen too. So Chris Getz, their general manager, credit to him. This guy was getting pounded a couple of years ago for decisions and everything like that, but man, it is seemingly working out. The fans, by the way, all of a sudden are pouring in there. Their attendance is on the rise too. So a great sign that the White Sox are in this thing. Now, long term, I don't know. Like, is this a postseason team? Is it a deep postseason team?
Pro baseball today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
right, welcome back in-game live game day here on the SportsGrid Network. And the knockout stages have been, well, certainly last night provided a whole lot of drama and narratives here. And my goodness, Austria almost scored. Almost. But they are still being outshot 16-2. So this is pure Spain domination here. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish, a header that went just a bit high there, Craig. But it was a good effort, and that was actually the best scoring chance I think we've seen from Austria to date. But again, 1-0, and crazier things have happened. Like I said, one random goal by Austria, and next thing you know, we're 1-1, and it's a totally different ball game here.
Yeah, that just shows you how things can change pretty quickly. Maybe the attack for Austria is different, but we're an hour into the match, and that was the first opportunity of the day.
Yep.
That Austria legitimately had a chance to even score a goal, so at least it gives us some hope that maybe this could end up 1-1, and then we could go to kicks or something like that. But
I agree.
I got a little bit of optimism, Joe, for the first time all day. If you guys are watching along with us, and you're like, this match is a dull one, we agree. We agree.
Yes.
A lot has not happened in this match. It's just you can't have a gem for every match of the World Cup, and this one, for the most part, has been, as they would say, a slog a little bit in professional sports. Not much happening, but hey, Austria got a header, almost knocked it in. Let's see. Now is some action. Let's get some action here in the final 30 minutes or so.
I will say this: the substitutions that they made in midfield, I've seen more offense, at least from them in this second half, than we did at all in the first half. So maybe, just maybe, that's a sign of some things to come. But again, as long as Spain is not scoring, they're in play here, Austria. And certainly from a market perspective, it is the only value right now is on Austria to maybe come back and score in this one. And this is an interesting one, too, is the goalie came out of the box for Spain and I think took out an Austria player. Well, you don't see that very often. No. I'm not sure if he has to stay within that box or how that works, but he was outside of that goalie box. And, yeah, he went up and I think he took a player out. Now, I don't know what that means. If there's a penalty shot coming up, oh, boy, would that be a change of plans here. But still 1-0. On the 62-minute mark. Did you see that? I mean, he was well outside the box there, Craig.
He was, yeah. I mean, I think a goalie can do anything, though. I think he's allowed to. So, as far as my understanding is, but yeah, he just, his rear went to the head of the player on Austria. Right. You don't see that often. And you just don't know if these guys are flopping, if they're really hurt. No disrespect to any of the players, but they flop constantly. Yes. 80% of these guys flop. 20% they're really hurt. But he's holding his head. He's been on the ground. They are bringing, it looks like, that little cart out there, so maybe this is one of the real times here. But, yeah, they're calling for a sub, it looks like, right, Joe?
Yeah, well, or the cart or something along those lines, but very interesting here move. But I know the goalie can't use his hands outside of that box. Right. He did go to head
he used his butt. I think that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you take out a player and rip it, take his head off, I don't know. You're right. Maybe goalies get away with anything they want. I always thought it was within that box, though. Once you go outside that, we'll see what happens here. But it does look like he's walking off. The guy that was smacked. That's a shock, huh? That it really wasn't. It wasn't anything major, I guess.
Come on, you know by now, Joe.
4 minutes of time. Yeah, I think 4 minutes of time and a little breather here. But I don't know that helps Austria. I would much rather him get up and let's go. Get up and get it going here, because you're not exactly winning this. Wasting time is not going to help you. No. But, hey, again, Austria has spent more time in Spain's neck of the woods here than we have seen the entire match so far.
True.
So, 65 minutes we're coming up on here. I don't know. Do we get another goal, Craig? That's the question here.
We do not.
What do we think? You don't think? You like the under, right?
I mean, look, you know me from doing these shows and doing all shows. I'm very willing to call myself wrong and pivot. But do you see any other play, Joe, coming? Do you see it? I mean, tell me. Just like, you're watching the same thing as me. It's either Spain with a goal or nothing.
kind of feels it. Although that header kind of threw the missed header threw me for a loop here. I did not see that
One
coming.
shot.
And
the whole game.
that Irish just all it takes is one. That's the problem I'm having right now. So we'll update you. We'll take a look at the corners. We'll get you all the updated odds as in-game live game day continues.
The older players in the WNBA going, hey, man, we were here when they were paying us nothing. We were here when we had to go overseas to make a paycheck. You're walking in here, you don't realize how easy you have it. So there is some of that too. But yeah, Jordan got beaten up. Magic got beaten up. Bird got beaten up. Kareem got beaten up. You know, Wemby is getting beaten up, by the way.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Pitching has been really good in their bullpen too. So Chris Getz, their general manager, credit to him. This guy was getting pounded a couple of years ago for decisions and everything like that, but man, it is seemingly working out. The fans, by the way, all of a sudden are pouring in there. Their attendance is on the rise too. So a great sign that the White Sox are in this thing. Now, long term, I don't know. Like, is this a postseason team? Is it a deep postseason team?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, come on, let's do it. All right, welcome back in-game live game day here on the SportsGrid network. And sure enough, you go away, you come back, and we get a goal. It never fails here. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. Beautiful goal, too, by the way, for Spain on a header. And it is now 2-0. Spain on top of Austria coming up on the 70-minute mark here. And Craig, now it's just a matter of, okay, now that it's 2-0, and we had said the most popular exact score was 2-0. Do we get after this hydration break here, the second hydration break, do we get one more goal? We just looked at the odds, 3-1, I think it was, for both teams to score. 3-0 is actually not a bad price if you think Spain's going to be the one to score. But that all means that your original under goes out the window if any of those two things happen. So it's still under right now. There's plenty of time left, but can Austria get one back? That's really the question here. Because I think I'm kind of with you. I think Spain takes the air out of it. I think they're going to be more than happy now just to play keep away.
Yeah, there's about 25 minutes or so left. I think my issue is not with scoring, because I'll call it what it is. Spain could score again. But
yes.
What have you seen that makes you think that Austria could score? Like, you saw one header in 60 and 71 minutes. Like, I don't know. I just don't see them scoring. Spain could score, though.
Yes. Yeah. This is, and you see, this is the interesting part about the World Cup, because we're at the 68, 69 minute. And people are saying, well, game's over. Way to go, Spain. Boy, is that's interesting here. So Austria, great job, I guess. But the more and more you watch these squads play here, Greg, the more and more it becomes very evident. And we saw it last night with Team USA, and we had said yesterday on the show, we're going to learn a little something about, what this team is, right? What is Team USA? They're certainly not experienced on the world stage. It's not like they're competing every year like a France or an England or a Argentina. That's not what this team is. They're very young, not a ton of experience in the World Cup, but boy, oh boy, did we saw that as far as levels go with some of the better teams, and it's clear there are levels to this. Nothing that I saw from Team USA doesn't lead me to believe that they couldn't go toe-to-toe with a Spain or an England or France if it came down to it. Did you see anything that leads you to believe, they're still young, they're not ready yet?
I don't know. I didn't come away from that match in Bosnia thinking that they're a contender, Joe. I didn't think so. Just being honest.
Not there yet, huh?
No. I did you really think they played that well against Bosnia? I mean, I guess anybody watching is saying, are you insane? Because they played with 10 and scored a goal. Yes. But I would tell you that I think the best thing that could have happened was Belgium winning that match, because I think USA can win that one. But that is the seminal moment for Team USA at this World Cup. If they win against Belgium, this World Cup is a success. And if they lose, it's a failure. That's it. It is clear cut. There's no in the middle, right? And tell me where I'm off on that. I think that's the deal. They win, 2 thumbs up. They lose, back down to where USA is.
Well, they also then have a built-in excuse now, too. So thanks, ref. So if they don't happen to win that game, forever they will make an excuse about how their leading scorer wasn't available.
I don't want to hear
for this next game. I'm just saying that'll be the narrative here. But what I was impressed with was not only the circumstances, because to me it's all experience matters in this tournament. I'm sorry, the ones with the experience, when you get into crunch time, it's unlike anything else here. And I didn't know, once they went down, you lose your leading scorer, the guy that had the goal already in the game, and he gets red carded out of nowhere. That, younger, immature teams, no experience, that could have thrown them for a loop, right, Greg? I mean, to me, that was the best outcome, because not only did they have to win, but they had to overcome adversity in a way nobody saw coming, with 10 guys to be able to do it. And they did. So to me, that's that next evolution of, listen, you got to lose in order to win, right? Well, they've certainly done enough losing over the years, don't get me wrong, but it feels like we just watched that next step. Really, in the progress of what USA soccer, men's soccer on the world stage is. That was a huge, I think, defining moment. No?
I agree, but if they lose to Belgium,
well, then it goes out to
you think it was a success, this World Cup for Team USA? Oh, I mean, honestly, do you think it is, Joe? It was a successful World Cup.
They're losing.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, if they lose, then again, you got to lose before you can win.
It's the same talk.
It's the same conversation. It's exactly the same conversation. But
if they win, it's a success. That's it. Very successful run for them in the World Cup. If they win, they're not going to win. I don't think they're going to win after Belgium. I think it's over. But I do think they can beat Belgium. The odds tell us they can beat Belgium. Generally speaking, in the past, when Team USA has been in this spot, in the 50-50 spots where they can win and move on, they've lost.
Yes. I have to say this. I wasn't sure what kind of goaltender we had either, because it wasn't like he was tested very often. But he was also, I thought, was pretty good there, having to step up. And you're right. You make it to the round of 16, right? You make it to the round of 16. If you can win that match, Well, everything else at that point, to me, they're playing with house money. No matter whether they're a favorite or not, you're playing with house money because you've already gone further than anybody ever thought you were going to ever. This team is one of the most talented teams that I think we have seen. They're fast. They have just as much speed as these teams that we're watching here. But the thing how are you going to beat an Mbappe in France or, Harry Kane in England? Those guys been there, done that. Can Team USA overcome adversity in a match against the world's greatest? Not taking anything away from Bosnia last night, but that's not the world's greatest. They still have to cross that next boundary, I think. And I think they got the right coach. I think they got the right. If this is, the core group of guys that we're going to get over the next World Cup or two, I think this is the best shape Team USA soccer has been in forever, as far as I can remember there, Craig.
It feels that way, but I feel like we've felt this way before. That's what I would say. It feels like we have felt this way going into matches with Team USA, and they've let us down. Am I most optimistic this time as opposed to those other times? Yes. And the odds tell us that as well. But until they get it done, I still am going to reserve judgment on it. Again, look at these odds. I mean, minus 110 on both sides, Joe. I mean, and I don't think Belgium's very good either, but it just tells you that they're both experienced.
Like Kyle Bond told us earlier, this is an older Belgium squad that has been here and done this, so experience matters. And boy, oh boy, are we going to see that on center stage here. Now, to your point, if they get past that, if they get past Belgium, what would be next? Who would be the next bracket?
We have the bracket, guys. Maybe they could throw the bracket up there.
If they have it there. Yeah, because I know they're on France's side, are they not? Spain or Austria?
It would be the winner
so
here.
They would, yes. So there you go.
Probably Spain,
That's
Joe.
going to be that. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Portugal's such a big favorite coming up, but how many more times have we seen Croatia as an underdog in these? My goodness. All right, we have updates for you as in-game live game day continues.
Older players in the WNBA going, hey man, we were here when they were paying us nothing. We were here when we had to go overseas to make a paycheck. You're walking in here, you don't realize how easy you have it. So there is some of that too. But yeah, Jordan got beaten up. Magic got beaten up. Bird got beaten up. Kareem got beaten up. Wemby is getting beaten up, by the way.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done. He's on the
jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Pitching has been really good in their bullpen too. So Chris Getz, their general manager, credit to him. This guy was getting pounded a couple of years ago for decisions and everything like that, but man, it is seemingly working out. The fans, by the way, all of a sudden are pouring in there. Their attendance is on the rise too. So a great sign that the White Sox are in this thing. Now, long term, I don't know. Like, is this a postseason team? Is it a deep postseason team?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
right, welcome back in-game live game day, and it almost happened. Austria almost with a goal there. Had a pretty good opportunity, one of the better opportunities we've seen here of the, 3 shots that they've had. They still don't have one on target, but this was maybe the best out of the 3 shots they had, with an opportunity to be able to go in, but just couldn't get it on target. In the meantime, 20 shots now for Spain, 8 on target, 9 corners for Spain. We were looking in game, 12 and a half total corners was the number. But it's going to have to be all Spain at this point if you were looking at the over, because we don't have any corner kicks from Austria at all. It's 9 corner kicks for Spain, and that's all we have here. But that was a pretty good opportunity there, Craig. If they were going to get on the board, that looked like a pretty good opportunity to do so.
I thought so. They came close, Joe. How Spain is even allowing this is beyond me. They should just be playing defense now and not doing anything else. But quick mistake there. Almost led to the first goal of the game for Austria there. 81 and a half minutes in. We're about probably like 12, 13 minutes away from moving on to the next round. And, certainly Spain has not been fantastic in this. So if Team USA beats Belgium, Spain's going to be minus 300, I would guess, minus 270, something like that. But we'll see.
Almost another goal by Austria. My goodness, what is going on here, Craig? Another header. Don't get me wrong. Wasn't on target. Don't get me wrong. It was way off, but it was at least in the vicinity of the goalie this time, which is also nice. Baby steps here, folks. Baby steps. So 4 total shots on goal, none on target. And, of course, 0 to show for it here as a 2-0 coming up on the 82-minute mark right now with Spain. But, and we thought this might happen after that second goal, does appear that Spain might be playing with their food a little bit here, Craig. You getting that feeling as well?
They just, as determined. I thought that's what this was going to be for the last 20 minutes. The fact that they let Austria come down twice and almost score is that's a good sort of shocking here. About 12 minutes to go, and I would expect Austria to do everything possible to try and score. But Spain should just be playing on their own side. That's it.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy here. 501 passes completed to 236. Yeah, I can't explain. I can give you when we finally got a yellow card. By the way, I never thought we'd see that in this match, but it does look like Austria is starting to take out some of the frustration of not being even remotely close to the level that Spain is right now, and the physicality is starting to get ratcheted up a little bit. So yellow card out for an Austrian player there, but it's not going to help. It's still 20 shots for Spain. Austria's up to 5 shots now, which is good. They still don't have one actually on goal, but like you said, we still have, about 12 minutes to go here in this match. And really, if you're holding that under 2.5, this is going to be a very important next 10 to 12 minutes there. It is going to be very important. And again, I'm not seeing Spain on the attack like they were earlier in this game. It looks like they'll be more than happy to play keep away here right now with Austria, and that's probably what we're going to get for the rest of the way here. But doesn't mean we don't have other matches coming up here a little bit later. We talked about Croatia and Portugal coming up. That'll be your 7 o'clock game. And then the night one in Vancouver also. Another one of those matches that we think likely going to see some goals here tonight with Algeria and Switzerland. Switzerland just about even money right now is what I'm seeing. Plus 350 for Algeria. Total is at 2.5. And a lot of people think the scoring is likely coming from Switzerland. I tend to agree, but I think we might get some goals in that one here tonight. That could very well be an over to me.
Yeah, I think so. And, the night game, I think a much better chance than the next one here, if there's a hope there. But yeah, I mean, Spain almost just scored again, and you wonder if this is a wrap for Austria at this point. Yeah, that was probably as close as anything. And now you got the Austria guys fighting with each other here.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. They're all yelling at one another like, are you out of your mind? But by the way, it was another one of those situations where a defender had to actually make the save because the goaltender was nowhere to be around in that spot here. But yeah, I'm with you. I like goals, both teams to score. We've seen Switzerland scored 7 goals in the group stage. They allowed a goal in each game. Algeria plays no defense. They allow plenty of goals, so would not shock me if we get an over and we get both teams to score in that one. But I'm kind of shocked, given Switzerland's track record here, that we are not seeing more money come towards them. They wouldn't be a slightly bigger favorite. But at even money, if you want to take a shot on a team that has no problem scoring, on a team that really has no problem allowing teams to score against them, now that feels like a pretty good price, or maybe one of the biggest, shall we say, traps of the World Cup thus far. But that game is coming up at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and that'll be in Vancouver. You stay up for these 11 o'clock games on the East Coast there, Craig? You staying up?
No. I'm done.
Not at all?
I'm done. I watched USA, and I watched them go up 2-0 yesterday, and that was it. By the way, Spain just subbed out a couple players. It seems to me that, it's got to be defenders coming into the game. Yeah, so
yes, you know what's happening.
Yeah, so they're just basically in goal prevention mode. It would seem like at this point, with about 7 minutes to go in the match, maybe less.
That could have when you tackle a guy that's right in front of your goalie, that could be grounds for a penalty kick. But I think even the refs are like, what's the point? At this time. So they are allowing, it looks like, Austria to play a little more physical here and get away with a little more pushing and shoving right now. But you're right. I think the subs are going to continue to come in as we're at the 87, 88 minute mark. So I would imagine a lot of the backups are going to get some playing time, and it's going to be all about trying to get out of here without any injury. So are we when in-game live game day continues.
The older players in the WNBA going, hey man, we were here when they were paying us nothing. We were here when we had to go overseas to make a paycheck. You're walking in here, you don't realize how easy you have it. So there is some of that too. But yeah, Jordan got beaten up. Magic got beaten up. Bird got beaten up. Kareem got beaten up. Wemby is getting beaten up, by the way.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the 3rd time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Pitching has been really good in their bullpen too. So Chris Getz, their general manager, credit to him. This guy was getting pounded a couple of years ago for decisions and everything like that, but man, it is seemingly working out. The fans, by the way, all of a sudden are pouring in there. Their attendance is on the rise too. So a great sign that the White Sox are in this thing. Now, long term, I don't know. Like, is this a postseason team? Is it a deep postseason team?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
welcome back. It never fails when we go away for just a quick hydration break. We come back, and another goal is on the board here. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as Spain has added a goal, and that was maybe as close to an empty netter as you're going to get, Craig, is once again, it looks like Austria is just, they're done. They didn't cover anybody, wide open in front of the net. They got the goal, 3-0. So the over looks like it's good to go if you're over the 2.5 mark. And that's just unfortunate. 6 minutes of extra time. I gotta do it.
First time at the with our World Cup. Here's my ticket.
Oh, rip it up. That's it. There it is.
That's it. We take the L. We're taking the L here on the show.
Oh,
2 hours and 53 minutes. I had to sweat that out.
So close. Yep. So close when I tell you there. And the domination factor here is crazy. Craig and I were just laughing that 5 shots, which is great, but not one of them on target. They had not one corner kick. Meanwhile, 22 shots, 10 on target for Spain, and 3 goals here. So dominating performance by Spain. They will then take on the winner of the Croatia match coming up against Portugal. And then, well, then that should be pretty interesting here, Craig, to say the least, right? Because that one coming up at 7 o'clock here tonight, I think that is also going to produce, I think, a better match than what Austria was for Spain, whether it's Croatia or Portugal. I think that's going to be kind of must watch as well. I think that is going to be a pretty good heavyweight fight, no matter which team comes out of this game coming up tonight.
I would agree. I mean, I think most would root for Portugal because they want to see Ronaldo, maybe his final World Cup. You know, I think that's maybe part of it. But, you know, as bettors, we really don't care. We just don't want to tear up another ticket. But, yeah, I mean, so how would you assess this? We're almost done here. How would you assess the match that we watched? Was it that Spain was great or that Austria was horrible, somewhere in the middle? How would you assess it, Joe?
Well, I don't think Austria's I mean, listen, Austria was good enough to get to the knockout stage. So they weren't terrible, but I think that because Spain didn't look anything like this in necessarily except for the Saudi Arabia group match. I think it was the second game. But that came off of a 0-0. They only beat Ecuador 1-0. So I think we might have slept a little bit on and then they have injuries. They don't have even some starters playing. But I think once you get to the round of 32 or beyond, well, I think this is what Spain is very capable of. The only other team I have seen to be this dominant was France. And they made Sweden look like a YMCA team. So, again, there are levels to this, and I would say that, Spain is, I think, a favorite for a reason with France and a couple and we'll get to see Argentina tomorrow, right? We'll get to see some of these other favorites and whether or not they can get it done. But if this ends like this, that's 4 matches in the World Cup, Craig, where they have not given up a goal yet. That's impressive.
It is. I would agree. But I think most of Spain's damage came when it didn't matter. I would also say that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, is USA better than Spain? Probably not from me watching this. No, probably not. I don't think I could back USA. So, but is USA, should they beat Belgium and then face off with Spain? Unlikely, but maybe. Another goal?
Oh,
I miss it?
So close. Yep, so close. That was about to be 4-0. Will they hurry up and get I can't believe they put 6 extra minutes on this clock.
I know.
That is amazing to me. I cannot believe they would have done that. That is.
Will we be off the air when this match ends or not?
No,
this will be a first.
They'll probably extend more time because they want to get a couple more advertisers in is likely what is going to happen. But good news is you got a couple of more matches still to come here tonight. Likely going to be a little bit more competitive. I think Croatia and Portugal should be fun there, and the dogs could be barking here tonight, Craig. At least one of them, anyway, of the upcoming 2 games there 7 o'clock Eastern time, we'll have you covered here, Croatia and Portugal. And then 11 o'clock Eastern tonight with Algeria and Switzerland. Good news is we got more soccer again and World Cup action tomorrow in the knockout stages. Craig and I will be back for Argentina, Cape Verde tomorrow. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the games here tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow on In-Game Live Game Day.
The older players in the WNBA going, hey, man, we were here when they were paying us nothing. We were here when we had to go overseas to make a paycheck. You're walking in here, you don't realize how easy you have it. So there is some of that too. But yeah, Jordan got beaten up. Magic got beaten up. Bird got beaten up. Kareem got beaten up. You know, Wemby is getting beaten up, by the way.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-Game Live, only on SportsGrid.
Pitching has been really good in their bullpen too. So Chris Getz, their general manager, credit to him. This guy was getting pounded a couple of years ago for decisions and everything like that, but man, it is seemingly working out. The fans, by the way, all of a sudden are pouring in there. Their attendance is on the rise too. So a great sign that the White Sox are in this thing. Now, long term, I don't know. Like, is this a postseason team? Is it a deep postseason team?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
What's up, everybody? It's Cami Ortiz. We're back here at Copa Nation, and you're probably wondering, where the heck is normally our beloved host? He's not around here, but let me tell you guys, because he is at the versus Austria World Cup match. That is right. Applause to him, because that is an incredible match to go. I'm here with Noah Ferrero, a youth soccer. Noah, tell me, how are you doing, first off?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here on Latin Nation. It's a dream come true.
Absolutely, yeah. A little bit what you do, what you train kids. Insight on that first.
Yeah, well, my dad was born in Argentina. No choice but to play soccer growing up. I played at a very competitive. I realized it's not what I wanted to take on, so I took on youth training, kids 4 to 9 years old, and it's been the most rewarding thing ever just to see kids. Teach them what I learned from my dad and my coaches. So yeah.
Absolutely. It's all about the game. And I see you're wearing an Argentina jersey. So obviously you've been following the World Cup. Do you want to give us like a so far, what's been the highlight of your World Cup?
The highlight of my World Cup, honestly, has been the